Alright, we should be live. Microphone looks good. Video capture. Yep. Alright, so we're back. Working on Indoraptor, the perfect hybrid. Here it is. Legendary dinosaur mutant. And we finished with Dark Ascension last time, so we are starting on Dark Steel. Definitely don't want Aether Snap. I want him to have his counters, please and thank you. um, Entity for anything. Don't need any of the Arcbound creatures. Moth Nexus, no. Loses life for each tapped artifact they control, no. Root, Darksteel Citadel. Don't think I need any of the Darksteels. Death Cloud is life loss. That's not happening. I mean, there is some value in a card like Death Cloud just to make everybody sacrifice a large number of creatures, but that way Indoraptor is more likely to actually deal damage with his trigger instead of eating a creature to prevent the damage. It's not even damage prevention, it's just to negate the effect entirely, which is frustrating because if it was just preventing the damage, we could run cards where damage can't be prevented, and Indoraptor would just get to claw through all of our opponents very quickly. Three damage to each creature without flying and each player. Triple red. Red does feel like the primary color since we're trying to deal damage to everybody. Excuse me. But at the same time, triple red into casting Indoraptor seems a bit much. It is nice that it's 3 damage. Ooh, you know what card's gonna be really good if I remember it correctly? Because I'm used to seeing it in 1v1. Flame Rift, when we get to not Stronghold, middle set Nemesis. I think it is. Has Flame Rift in it. Some water. Furnace Dragon. Furnace Dragon's okay because it would eat all of our opponent's artifacts, but we really need to get a bunch of treasures, and right now we only have Dockside. I might be down for running like 1 or 2 other big treasure producers, like maybe Brass's Bounty or something. We're going to be ramping with lands anyway, just to get a ton of extra mana for like that one big turn. But these can't run Memnarch. No. Is dealt damage, so if everybody had to block him, he dealt damage by every single thing they control. I don't think I need a lore effect on Indoraptor, but also I don't think I'm gonna have room for a ton of like equipment that isn't boosting its power and toughness by a lot, because I want things that will either trigger the damage dealing properties on it, so some like an equipment that would deal damage to the Indoraptor into something else maybe. I don't think there's anything quite like that. Um, maybe something that would let him fight. Second. Okay, hopefully that's gotten it cleared out. But something that would either let Indoraptor deal damage to itself more often, huge power and toughness boosts, and last thing is um, anything that would trigger when it's dealt damage, so that way it deals. That way it gets additional effects when I'm dealing damage to it. Because I think there's like some weird electrical equipment, like electrical barbs or something. I think it's from Scars of Mirrodin, that when the creature's dealt damage, it deals damage to a target, and I forget if the target can be a player or a creature, or if it specifies, but that might be something worth having for Indoraptor, since I'm trying to deal damage to it anyway. Don't need the pulses, I don't think. Yeah. I think I need Reap, and so it is nice that it gets any land, not just a basic. So that's a little bit worth considering, but first I need some very specific non-basic lands, and I don't know what ones I'd actually be looking for Indoraptor. Like, there's no non-basic land that I immediately think of when I see him. There might be one that can deal damage to him repeatedly or something, but most of them usually require tapping because the purpose is to deal damage to the opponent's creatures. So either tapping them or sacrificing them is part of the effect, or part of the cost, rather. This does not feel like a Skull Clamp deck. Okay, Spectre Shroud is specifically combat damage. And Indoraptor is as likely to deal his effect damage as he is to deal combat damage. Alright, so most of the ways I'll have to deal damage to the Indoraptor are going to be red. So Sword of Fire and Ice is definitely out. Um, yeah, I don't think Sword of Light and Shadow is where I want to be. The other thing is that if the Indoraptor is protected from colors, it can't get into combat with creatures of those colors, and getting into combat is probably more beneficial for him than detrimental, since he has to be blocked by multiple creatures, and that will trigger him twice and probably kill the two creatures that are blocking him also. Barring protection or indestructibility. Yeah, Tears of Rage not really doing anything for me. I'm not go wide enough for that to actually matter, so. Thunderstaff. No. Wand of Elements, no. Alright, that's all of Darksteel. Yeah, Darksteel comes Dissension, which does have Rakdos in it. Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Rakdos Anthem deals 1 damage to you. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent player, deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. I have to get Hellbent, though, which is literally all of the cards out of my hand. And that's not a strategy I usually even try to do in Commander. Like, I'm usually trying to get more cards rather than get rid of the cards that I have. Excuse me. Yeah, I can't imagine I can get the Anthem fully online consistently, or that I would want to. We'll, of course, take Blood Crypt, so. Sworn Dissension was DISC. Alright. Why can't I remember how to spell dissension? There's two S's. Hmm. Anyway, there's our Blood Crypt. Bond of Agony. Loses X life. Nope. That one. Choose a non-land card name. No. 3 damage to any target. 5 damage instead if you have no cards in your hand. Can't run Crime and Punishment. Enters the battlefield. Each player puts a creature card with mana value 3 or less from their graveyard onto the battlefield. No. Rootkin. Miriam Skynes. Demon Fire. Unbound and Determined. For each card in my hand. Nope. Resonance. Guild Pact. Tropic. Rise and Fall. Grixis one. Fertile Imagination. The creature enters the battlefield. Deal 4 damage to that creature. Nope. +2/+2 in trample, and red +1/+0 until end of turn. Ghost Quarter. Gob Hobbler Rats. Hellhole Rat. Also probably not. Eh. Target player discards a card and it deals damage to them equal to the card's mana value. Is a 4-drop though. Probably not hit and run. What's the run half of it? Attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature. Yeah, I'm not really going wide and hit. Depending on, like, I'm going to obviously have to target a player that doesn't have, like, a bunch of treasure lying around or something. Or random creature tokens, but that's a lot of commander decks nowadays. I'm sure I can find one player that's got, something that they're actually going to take damage from, but I get Pop It, Kindle the Carnage. Does 2 damage to any target if the sacrificed creature was red. Draw a card if the sacrificed creature was black. Think so. Age Right Stone. Life Loss. And not that good. Whenever opponents dealt 3 or more damage by a single source, that player discards a card. Don't think so. Like, we can definitely trigger that, but I don't think I care. So. The spell or ability would cause its controller to gain life. That player loses that much life instead. On the one hand, it's life loss. On the other hand, it does stop life gain. I don't know that I need to stop life gain that much, though, to dedicate a card to it that's not fully on board with my game plan. Like, if it said that player takes that much damage instead, then I would put Reign of Gore in just for the players that have non-optional life gain, so that way they're taking damage from it, and maybe I'm getting extra counters on the Indoraptor. -2/-2, make a 2/1 goblin with haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. No. Creature's controller loses 1 life. No. No, the Pit Dragon. For each blood counter on Right Knife and has tap, sacrifice a creature, put a blood counter on it. Sacrifice the knife. Target player sacrifices a permanent for each blood counter on it and equip 2. I think I need the Signet. Don't need Rakdos. Ratcatcher. A creature can't block. No. Seal of Doom. Seal of Fire. Slaughterhouse Bouncer. Slithering Shade. Sporeback Troll. No. Routing Phytohydra. Copy of it. No. You may pay X. If you do, target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. If black wasn't spent to cast it, sacrifice it. Or another creature you control dies, it deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. I run Stalking Vengeance in Rorikthar because he's got nothing but big dumb creatures for the most part. So killing all of my guys, Stalking Vengeance will deal a ton of damage. You know, unless they Farewell or Toxic Deluge. You know, either take away all of the power of my creatures or exile them, but still. Don't know if this is a deck for it, though. Probably not. Deals 2 damage to each of up to 2 targets. Destroy those creatures instead. No. Living Psychopath, no. Or a Scalper, no. War's Toil. Spires. Deals 3 damage to target creature you control. Not quite. Alright. So that was Dissension. Onward to Doctor Who. Oh wait, this doesn't work because the Doctors all have like alternate art cards, and so they don't with higher collector numbers, and rather than put them by their original collector number, they organize them all by their fancy artwork collector number, and this does not actually help anything to organize it by. Oops. Alright. A sacrifice an artifact when you do put a 1/1 counter on Ace. I wonder if it works better on the Scryfall if I went over here. Because I remember that being incredibly annoying. Not mana value. Set. Alright, how do you have Doctor Who? They spell out the word Doctor. Alright. See if it works for them. Oh. I put colors, not commander color identity. There we go. Alright, tap, exile the top card of your library until end of turn, or until your next end step. You may play it. 4 mana, 3/3. Don't need Clara Oswald. Enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. That player loses 3 life. Ew. Menace and Myriad. Exiles their graveyard. Put all creature cards exiled with Death in Heaven onto the battlefield, face down under your control. They're 2/2s. Choose X. You may choose the same mode more than once. Each player sacrifices a non-artifact creature. Create a 3/3 with Menace. Each opponent discards a card. Tap and untap Dalek, whatever it's called. Destroy target creature its controller loses 3 life. Create a 3/3 with Menace for each lore counter on it. Target opponent faces a villainous choice. Destroy all of them. Each opponent loses life equal to the total power of them. Or destroy all of the creatures that aren't them. Nope. Target creature's owner shuffles it into the library, faces a choice, lose 5 life, or they shuffle another creature they own into their library. Whenever Time Reaper deals combat damage to a player, put target face-up card they own in exile on the bottom of their library. If you do, gain 3 life. Beginning of your upkeep, secretly choose a number between 1 and 5 that hasn't been chosen. If you do, an opponent guesses which number you chose, then you reveal the number you chose. If they guessed wrong, they lose life equal to the number. Equal to the number they guessed, and you draw a card. Nope. Indestructible Shadow. Beginning of each end step. If a creature died this turn, put a 1/1 counter on it. When Vissler enters the battlefield, you may have an opponent gain control of it. If you do, it's goaded for as long as they control it. Beginning of your end step, draw a card, then you lose life equal to number of cards in your hand. Nope. Deals combat damage to a player. Choose a suspended card you own and remove that many time counters. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Bill, or activate an ability that only targets Bill, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. Turn my head sideways. Target creature can't block this turn and becomes a coward in addition to its other types until end of turn. Time travel. Killer deals 3 damage to target creature and each other creature that shares a creature type with it. Probably not. Non-creature, non-equipment artifacts you control become equipment that give +1/+0 and have equip 1. Choose a creature card name, then goad all creatures with a name chosen for Day of the Moon. Discard all cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. Retrace. Delete deals X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. So that's like 4 mana to deal 2 to each of our opponents, and we would take 2, and our creatures would take 2. I don't think that's quite good enough. Or the creature it's paired with dealt damage. Donna deals that much damage to target opponent. That's marginally interesting for soulbounding with Indoraptor, since I'm planning on dealing damage to it anyway. Target opponent. It's also interesting because if I have her out soulbound to a different creature, and she and that creature take damage, then I get to deal double that damage essentially to a player, and then cast Indoraptor, having dealt extra damage to that player. Maybe I'm interested in Donna Noble then. Alright. So Doctor Who. 2 ends in Donna. Yep. Roll is 3 in a red for a human. I think she's a human. Yep. 2/4. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play those cards until end of turn. Put 4 time counters on each of those cards that has suspend. Each opponent faces a villainous choice. They exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Or that player exiles the top 4 cards of their library, and ensnared by the Mara deals damage equal to the total mana value of those exiled cards to that player. This is each opponent. If any one of them chose the damage, that could be very good for the Indoraptor. Maybe. It's only 4 mana, which is reasonable for a thing that can deal that much damage. The problem is that how much do I care about getting a free spell from them if each player realizes how bad the damage can be for the entire table? And the answer is that's going to vary wildly depending on the decks I'm playing against. Maybe I want it. It's 2 red, red, and it's a sorcery. This is one of those ones I'm going to add to the list and then cut it later because I don't have room for it. More so than anything else. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Flaming Tyrannosaurus deals 3 damage to any target, then put a 1/1 counter on Flaming Tyrannosaurus. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. I could guarantee when it was going to die, just to get the extra damage in. But it's not like the Bloodfire where it has a built-in sacrifice ability to deal the damage, so... Flux, I don't think... Deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you've cast from anywhere other than your hand this turn. It has Foretell. Yeah, it's basically 2 damage for 3 mana. Which I already wasn't thrilled by 2 damage for like 4 mana, so that's not doing a whole lot more. Cascade and Rebound. You cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a 2/2 alien creature token. Or you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, then draws a card, put a 1/1 counter on the memory worm. Now, top 5 cards of your library. For each non-land card exiled this way, put a number of time counters on it on that card equal to its mana value. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Time travel, then time travel again. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target artifact that player controls. I don't think I need Return the Past. Titanic. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than or equal to Ryan's power. Put the exile cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. Warlock. Enters the battlefield, reveal cards from the top of your library. Until you reveal a non-land card with mana value 3 or greater, exile that card with 3 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. Put the rest of the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think so. 5 mana, 5/5 trample haste. Attacks with 2 other creatures. Goad up to 1 target creature that player controls. These creatures can't block this turn. Enchanted creature is goaded. If enchanted creature would deal combat damage to a permanent player, it deals double that damage instead. Return Sound of Drums from your graveyard to your hand. I think so. Whenever Ace Fearless Rebel attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on her, then she fights up to 1 target creature defending player controls. Create a treasure token. Create a token that's a copy of target non-saga token you control. I think so. As a historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 7/7 dinosaur in addition to its other types. Up to 5 doctor cards. No. Foretold Soldier must be blocked if able. Can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Deals damage. Whenever it deals damage, exile it face down. It becomes Foretold and Foretell green and 1. Create a human with Ward 2 and a 4/4 white alien rhino token. Investigate. Exile a human you control and an artifact you control. If you do, search your library for a doctor card and put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. Food token. Recast a historic spell. +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the spell's mana value. Humans you control gain indestructible until your next turn. Vigilance, trample, haste. Attacks put a 1/1 counter on each human you control. Whenever an opponent draws a card, except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, put a 1/1 counter on her. Deals combat damage to a player, deals that much damage to target creature that player controls. There's a battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, double the number of counters on them. We're not planeswalking. Taps for green. Huh. I didn't realize she was a Time Lord. Good for her, I guess. Whenever another creature dies, if it was attacking or blocking alone, exile it and investigate. Whenever you cast this spell, I read it as cast a spell at first, and I'm like, that seems ridiculous. Enters the battlefield tapped with 6 stun counters on it. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to its owner, untap it and draw a card. And permanent has tap target player adds 2 mana of any color. The next spell they cast this turn has Cascade. Have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent faces a villainous choice. The player sacrifices a creature they control, or you create a 3/3 with Menace. Enters the battlefield, investigate. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a clue. When you do, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback for 2 red and a green. Choose 2 target creatures, untap them, put 2/1/1 counters on each of them. They gain Vigilance, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase. Only the chosen creatures can attack during that combat phase. Eh. Whenever a non-token artifact creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, choose an opponent with the most life among opponents. That player faces a villainous choice. They lose 4 life, or you create a token that's a copy of that card. Non-token artifact creature you control dies. Legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control. Triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control. Vigilance, Trample, 2 tap, sacrifice an artifact. Choose a player at random. When you do, this fights another target creature that player controls. Whenever it deals damage to a creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. First strike, haste. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent faces a villainous choice. That opponent discards all the cards in their hand, then draws that many cards -1, or this deals damage to that player equal the number of cards in their hand. Well, since it's a choice, I don't really think it's all that good for me. Especially if they have a mediocre hand. And also, it's a 4-drop. I'm looking for more cheaper ways to deal a bunch of damage, or something that I can have in play that will deal damage, and then I'll be able to cast the Raptor in the same turn. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Mill 5 cards, put a land from your graveyard onto the battlefield, and it has flashback 5. Alright, +3/+0. As long as equipped creatures attacking as first strike, it must be blocked by those robot monsters. Equips to a legendary creature for 1. Attacks another target legendary creature, can't be blocked this turn. Crew 2. There's the battlefield, surveil 3. Target legendary creature card in your graveyard gains escape. Artifact creatures you control have afflict 3, which causes them to lose life. They do the thing. Squadron attacks and isn't blocked. It gets +X/+0, where X is the number of attacking artifact creatures. Flying deals combat damage to a player. Put the top 2 cards of that player's library onto the battlefield face down as 2/2 Cybermen. Alright. Laser Screwdriver. Tap, add 1 of any color. 1 tap, tap target artifact. 2 tap surveil. 3 tap goad. Whenever Midnight Crusader shuttle attacks, defending player faces a villainous choice. That player sacrifices a creature, or you gain control of a creature of your choice that player controls until end of turn. Gain control of a creature this way, tap it, and it's attacking that player. Put a time counter on the moment. 2 tap, untap target creature you control. It phases out until the moment leaves the battlefield. 3 tap, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value less than or equal to the number of time counters on the moment, then sacrifice the moment, activate only as a sorcery. Psychic Paper. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell from their hand, exile it instead of putting in the graveyard as it resolves. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more cards exiled with River Song's Diary, choose one of them at random. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Okay, rotating Fireplace. Tapped with a time counter on it. Tap, add colorless equal to the number of time counters on it. 4 tap, time travel. Alright, tap, add 1 mana, 1 tap, untap another target artifact, 2 tap, scry 1, and 3 tap, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Don't think we need that. Not running any Time Lords. That doesn't do anything. Council Chamber. Ominous Cemetery. These are all reprints, but we haven't seen any of the Doctors, and I think that's because... No, wait, hang on. No, there aren't any that are red-green. There definitely aren't any that are black, and we did see the other villains, so that is it, then? Just have the lands. Okay. Alright. So, Doctor Who, then. Time for another set or two, though. So that was Doctor Who. To Dominaria. As I stretch a bit. Excuse me. Okay. Stop being petty now just because I went and used the Scryfall because you're horribly set up to look at Doctor Who cards. Top 3 cards of your library reveal a creature or land. No. Gains indestructible. And it fights target creature and opponent controls. I do want some number of fight cards, and this is a cheaper one that puts a counter on the Raptor, so maybe. What is it called again? Ancient Animus. 1 in a green for an instant. Don't need the Gorger. Alright, I'm planning on ramping with land, so Blackblade Reforged might actually be something I'm interested in. Reforged is a 2-drop. Blessing of Belzenlock, Bloodstone Goblin, no. Target artifact or enchantment, I can put a land into play from my hand. Cast a historic spell, deal 2 damage to each opponent. Target non-legendary. 2 damage to each opponent, gain 2 life. For an XX black Nightmare Horror, where X is half your life total rounded up, it deals X damage to you. I'd actually be interested in this for Chapter 2 going off and then being able to cast the Indoraptor, or Chapter 1 and being able to cast it in the same turn. But not really all that interested in that last ability going off, so. Alright. +2/+2 for each R and equipment attached to it. Add 2 red, deal 2 damage. Deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Deal 10 damage to target player and each creature that and planeswalker they control. Darga's Reincarnated. Flying Trample Haste. would die, instead exile with 3 counters on it. If it's exiled with a counter on it, remove the counter. Then, if it has no counters on it, return it to the battlefield. Still need bargain, death valid, bells and lock. Destroy target creature. Deals 5 damage to target creature. If the spell was kicked, it deals 10 damage. Divide as you choose among any number of targets. Unfortunately, that's 5, 6, 7, 9 mana. X damage to target creature and opponent controls, where X is the number of wizards you have. +3/+0, vigilance and trample. Dies, attach it to target creature I control. Nope. Must be blocked. Enters the battlefield, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn. Other creatures you control have haste. Enters the battlefield if it was kicked. No. You control another wizard, deal 2 damage to each opponent. I don't know how many wizards I'm going to be running. Probably not enough for that one. Deals 4 damage to target creature. If the spell was kicked, it deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Still a 4 mana spell, though, so probably not. Enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Don't think so. Adya's okay. I do like adding more mana, but she has to have a clean attack, and I have to have other creatures attacking with her, otherwise she's only making like 1 or 2 mana. I'd rather have that one dragon that adds mana based on the power of the attackers. Or the one dragon from Cons that just adds triple red, triple green. Yeah, probably not for Grun, since he doesn't have any kind of evasion to actually connect with an opponent. Like, just a 6 mana creature that attacks as a 10/10, if he was going to get through, or was going to get through for some amount of damage, maybe. Trample, anything, but... 3/3 Trampler, not casting kick spells. Haphazard Bombardment, no. Home of the Host. Kind of hilarious on Indoraptor. If I can deal damage to my opponents before combat. Yeah, it doesn't seem quite necessary, though. Discard up to 3 cards, draw that many. You may cast instant sorceries from your graveyard. Deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. Yeah, it's kind of in the same boat as the other card that dealt X damage to each player and each non-artifact creature. Like, if I have 3 opponents, it's basically the same thing, but I need a legendary spell, and I don't take the damage, and none of the creatures take the damage, so I can't use it to trigger Indoraptor either. So, yeah, if I didn't want the one, I don't think I want the other. Think so. Damage to target creature. Control target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste. Hexproof. +1/+0 as long as the player controls a white permanent. Think so. Elves. Envoy. Nurturer. Self-replicator, no. Mox Amber, no. Avatar. Actually, hang on. Multani Yavamaya's Avatar. Reach Trample. +1/+1 for each land you control and each land card in your graveyard. Turn from your graveyard to your hand. So we're ramping with land. So Multani is most likely going to be a 6-mana 6/6 Reach Trample that can grow. And he doesn't have to stay dead. He's mildly interesting because he might be much bigger than a 6/6 when he's attacking, but he's still just a big dumb creature at that point. It does help that he can come back though, so if he randomly gets killed instead of exiled, to bring him back. But that does require me setting myself back on land since I'm not planning on running things that let me play extra lands. Only things that let me put lands into play like from my deck. 3 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. Destroy target land. Up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn. Nope. Fire. No to Siege Gang. Mr. Skizzy. Whenever Sapperling you control dies, Slimefoot deals 1 damage to each opponent, you gain 1 life. The problem is most of the Aristocrats cards are loss of life, not damage. So don't see Slimefoot being the card. Though I do appreciate that he's actually damage instead of loss of life like so many other similar cards are. We had a few other cards like him, maybe, but most of them are loss of life. It's not as helpful. All lands you control are 2/2 elementals with reach, indestructible, and haste. Allosaurus. I think I need the Eldest Reborn. Held. Ending of Dominaria, probably not. It's double strike if both come up tails, it gains menace. Deals combat damage to a player. That player discards a card at random. If they can't, you draw a card. Balduck, Eric's Bladewing is 4 mana, 4/4 flyer. Was kicked, you make other one. Phoenix, Fury, Weatherlight, Whisper, no. Wild Onslaught. Shepherd, Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, probably not. Alright, so we're right around the hour mark. If I go through Dominaria United, I also have to go through its commander set. So I think we're good to call it here for right now. So, making progress, getting there on Indoraptor. It's nice to just get back into the groove of working on a commander deck during the week. So that way I'm not just playing Magic or doing nothing on the channel. But yeah, that's going to do it for me for right now. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.